good. How are you doing?
Feels good. It's good to get this recording underway. Been waiting for it a little bit.
Yes, it is. We've actually talked about doing this specific episode for quite some time now, like I'd say over a year.
Yeah, been thinking through it, making up our list, watching a lot of gameplay, getting all the stuff ready for it.
Yeah, so for you casual viewers that are out there, this is a special episode. This is not going to be a typical podcast where we just sit here and talk about whatever. We actually have an agenda today, and that agenda is very specific. We are doing a bracket-style Star Wars video game elimination.
Yeah, you. For those of you who are out there who are Star Wars fans, you'll understand, right? Ranking the various. It's just like ranking the movies, but you got to rank the video games as well.
Exactly. We're going to be talking some nerd talk. It's going over a lot of different things. So, all right, let's get right into it. So, the first matchup that we have today is Star Wars Bounty Hunter versus Shadows of the Empire.
Yeah, so I'll be honest, I haven't really played either one of these too much. Again, just watching some of the gameplay. I like the idea of being Jango Fett. I feel like he's a character in the movies that doesn't necessarily get as much screen time as he probably deserves. Watching the Boba Fett show lately has been interesting to see a little bit of backstory for Jango, but what do you think?
Yeah, Star Wars Bounty Hunter is definitely a top tier game. It was really fun to see the backstory. Basically, what you do in that game is you're Jango Fett, and you just do different bounties. You go through the missions, and it kind of shows how Darth Tyrannus, a.k.a. Count Dooku, finds him for hire. You go to kill a Jedi. Throughout the game, you get Slave 1, you get a jetpack, you get all the different cool stuff that make Jango Fett and who he is. And it's cool to see that. The graphics were not great, but it was an older game. But it was more of a puzzle game, and I am not too big on puzzle games.
Yeah.
But it was fun.
When you say puzzle game, what do you mean by that?
Yeah, so a puzzle game is there's different types of games, like hack and slash. That's like a God of War, like where the whole point of the game is just to hack slash kill a bunch of minions.
Yeah.
Puzzle games are games where it's like the challenge is figuring out where to go.
Gotcha.
Or what unlocks this.
Okay.
And, there's other type of games like RPGs and stuff like that.
For sure.
Comparison to Shadows of the Empire, that was a game that we played on N64.
Yes. Okay. I almost forgot which game that was for a second. That was like one of the very first Star Wars games we ever played when the N64 came out. This was before some of the classics like Lego Star Wars, some of the other ones that we'll talk about later. But yeah, I remember this one being very challenging, especially as a young kid trying to figure out, where exactly do you need to proceed ahead. And I feel like the saving, again, on the N64 was sometimes a little sketchy.
It was.
It's trying to save your progress. It wasn't quite as straightforward as it is today. But
yeah, not only was it sketchy, but the controls were kind of weird too, because you would have the first mission was you were on a snow speeder.
Yeah.
You were flying around Hoth. It was Battle of Hoth.
Yep.
And that was always fun. But then once you get past that, you're like going on a train. You're actually shooting, and the aiming wasn't that great.
I forgot about the train. Yeah, and you're trying to use the joystick on the N64, and it was so not responsive.
It was so clunky, and it wasn't ever smooth. It kind of rolled around like from slot to slot instead of rolling like traditionally today.
Shoot, and the way we played with those things too, they got abused real quick.
Yes, they did.
Thrown.
The N64 itself was kind of a weird controller because you hold it.
Yeah,
there's 3 prongs, and you hold.
That's a good conversation to have because the D-pad was on the far left side, right, with the third kind of handle.
But no one
ever used it.
It was yellow.
Yeah, it was. The little yellow buttons.
They were yellow. Mm-hmm.
I forgot about that.
A and B was the green and blue.
Yep.
And it had that. But it had 3 prongs. You held the middle one and the right one.
Right, but the left trigger was still on the far side. Mm-hmm. So if you were going to use any of was that the auxiliary, I think?
It had like a middle Z button.
That's right.
It was Z, but it had the R1 and the L1 on the sides too.
Yeah, I mean, either way, like trying to figure all that out on top of a game that was challenging.
Yeah, I think Bounty Hunter came out for PS2 and Xbox. I could be wrong.
Okay.
But I played it on PlayStation Now through my PS4 when I was recovering from my appendix removal.
That's another funny story.
That's another funny story. So, I don't know. Bounty Hunter, Shadows of the Empire, you play as Dash Rendar.
Right.
He's kind of like a made-up. I think, personally, I think Bounty Hunter takes this one just because Jango Fett's more iconic.
I would have to agree because there's some of the, again, we'll talk about more of them later, but some of the other like kind of unknown characters that you kind of get to make their story, I think would still be better than the squadrons.
Yes,
So,
Bounty
or
Hunter it
Shadows.
is. So Bounty Hunter, like, it makes up the whole story, whereas you could take the story of Shadows of the Empire completely out and it wouldn't make much of a difference.
Yeah,
I think.
I think so too. Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't think it plays into the bigger story of Star Wars. I mean, sure, it's on Hoth, but there's so much more there with obviously what's in the movies, just
Right.
from that specific, story on Hoth.
Yes.
So
And Jango Fett has more of a, like, important role in Star Wars. He plays a bigger part
yeah,
than Dash Rendar.
for sure. Yeah.
Okay, so next one, Knights of the Old Republic 2 versus Lego Star Wars: The Complete Saga.
So the only thing that I remember with Lego Star Wars: The Complete Saga was you had access to everything all at once. Like because it came out in a different sequence with the original one and then the new Galactic, I guess, Civil War video game. But to have them all put together, to be able to take Darth Maul and go run through the various levels, whether it was in episode 5 or episode 6, like on Endor and your Darth Maul,
or the Death Star.
right? Exactly. Like to have that. I don't know what the word
Crossover.
is. Crossover. Exactly. That was a lot of fun.
It was fun. They had toggle mute on there. They had that in the second one, I think, where
Toggle
you could
mute?
become like the animals or the
Oh
mouse
yeah,
droids. That was the second one.
They had that. They had the disguises.
Disguises, yeah.
You could every lightsaber was red, whatever it was.
I will say though, with the Complete Saga, it was very cool to have all the characters there.
Mm-hmm.
But I thought that the kind of main base was kind of lazy.
Was that the big open area?
Yes, so you know how it was Dexter's Diner in the first
Was
one.
the first one, right?
The second one was the Mos Eisley Cantina.
Right.
The Complete Saga was just the cantina again, just revised.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Okay. Yeah, they could have done more for that. Maybe even bouncing around to the more various different places or a new area entirely would have been cool.
Yeah, I think so too. Kind of a neutral ground for
Right.
both trilogies.
Right.
But when it comes to Knights of the Old Republic 2, I feel like I just don't know a ton about it. We played a lot of Knights of the Old Republic, but the second one not really.
Yeah, I was gonna say I've played through the first one a couple of times. I never made it to the second one. I'm not sure why. I really liked the original Knights of the Old Republic, but same kind of concept though as the first one, where you kind of get to, again, you have this character, nobody really knows much about him, and you get to decide whether he's following after the light side or following after the dark side.
I think Knights of the Old Republic was similar in gameplay, but I think it did have a different story.
Oh, I'm sure it did. Again, it's specifically what it was is slipping my mind now, but either way, I still think personally Lego Star Wars
Complete Saga.
It would take it for that one.
I'll go for that. So Complete Saga over Knights of the Old Republic.
Yep.
2.
Yeah, the second one. Was it in the Complete Saga it started to have more ships that were available to you?
I believe so, yes.
Okay, because I knew there were ship levels in some of the other ones, but I feel like the whole variety, I guess, was more in the Complete Saga.
I will say, though, for the Complete Saga, I don't know. It kind of seemed lazy to me, and I'm glad that they came out with other Lego Star Wars that had different levels that we'll talk about here coming up. But I don't know. It was just kind of like a mash of it. It was cool, but I feel like it was kind of just a money grab.
Right, because it was just the same levels.
It was the same exact thing, just combined.
The two previous.
It's like, why didn't they do this originally?
That's a good point.
Why would they separate it? And then it's like making 3 Hobbit movies out of one book.
It's like you said, it's about the money.
It's about the money, but it was still fun to play.
Yeah, kids like us are going to buy it regardless. So.
Yep. Okay, so should we go over here to the left bracket? Or you want to stay in the right?
I think we should do it like via round. Like okay. So let's go back to the other side.
All right, so moving on to the left bracket. First round, we have Star Wars Episode 1 Pod Racing N64 classic game versus Star Wars Squadrons, which is that VR we were watching.
Yeah, I might let out my bias a little bit, but the pod racing game again, was that another N64 game?
It was.
That one was so good because it was fully. I mean, it was like I think it was a little bit ahead of its time, really, because you could do the interchangeable parts. Like, I'm rather upgrade my engine to go a little bit faster, but then you were going to lose control or steering or
handling.
Right, exactly. And then there's so many varieties. Like, I feel like I never wanted to be Anakin, like even though he was the
Right.
fastest pod racer, because
Mhm.
again, his was hard to control.
Well, the lore was so good too,
It
because
was.
if you read the books like I have, and like Darth Plagueis, it's a great book by James Luceno.
Hmm.
They mention how pod racing was popular on Malastare,
Okay.
and Malastare is like one of the primary maps in that pod racing game.
It was. Yeah.
The Boonta Eve pod race on Tatooine
Hmm.
was held by Jabba the Hutt.
Right.
This is known. Darth Plagueis was a silent partner. He was the finances behind
Oh,
reopening the Boonta Eve pod race. Jabba the Hutt was the
really?
face, and Darth Plagueis was the finances.
That's wild. See, I didn't know
He was a
that.
silent partner.
Okay.
And if you read the book, I recommend
Yeah,
you should read it. It's great. But
I will. I will have to. Yeah, having the again, coordination with movies, I think is fun. Adding into the story that everybody kind of knows.
right,
Compared to again like the Squadrons, where sure VR is cool. I'm sure kids who are younger probably appreciate the VR more than I do. But
yeah,
again, I'm all about the story. How does it add to
right.
what is already there?
I think it is different. It's supposed to be a different experience. Like for the pod racing, it was more about like, you know, grinding
Yeah.
and getting your parts, unlocking the characters,
Mhm.
unlocking the maps, getting the top speed. Whereas Squadrons is more of just a whoa,
Right.
like
I'm
in Star Wars.
exactly like the immersive rather than the game, I guess, with it all. The
Right.
experience more with the VR, but
So I think we can say pod racing,
pretty safely, I'd say. Yeah, pod racing would take that one.
especially because it's set kind of during the Phantom Menace.
Yes.
That's kind
Right.
of cool because in all the other pod races that you see throughout the Boonta Eve are in that game. They all have their own backstory.
Yes,
They all have their
right.
own, one may be better. One's kind of a bigger guy, bigger pod,
Right.
smaller,
You're right. Yeah. So like depending on which map you're on, you're like, okay, I need a bigger, right? If it's a small track, I want a bigger pod
to
so that I
block it
can
out.
block people out. Exactly.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think it was ahead of its time.
It was cool. It was a really fun game.
Very underrated.
Yeah, I agree.
All right, so moving down, we have Lego Star Wars, the original trilogy.
Okay.
So this was when you first had Talk on Me, I believe, and you had the
Mhm.
lesson or levels with
Mhm.
episode 4, 5, and 6.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. With this one, it was in the other ones as well, but the whole idea of, you got to get the mini kits, and then you've got to try to get True Jedi, or was it
Yep.
True Jedi? You had to
I
fill
think
up
it
your
was
money
still
bar.
True Jedi. It was still True
I
Jedi.
said-
It has to be.
I can't remember if it was True Jedi or Ultimate Jedi, but either way, like you had to go back and play the levels over and over again.
Yeah.
And they started to refine some of the initial stuff they did, on the original game. So either
'Cause
way,
I think the original game was when they had free play, where you could come back and free
Yes,
play, and there was
right.
there was stuff that you couldn't. There was different areas you couldn't access until you came back and free played.
right, like the original, level didn't have you needed an astromech to open up a certain door
Right.
to get the
Or
extra
dark
mini.
side ability.
Exactly.
Yeah, so Lego Star Wars: The Original Trilogy, and then moving on, the one that's facing it is EA's Battlefront 2. Have
Yeah.
you played that?
I have, yeah. So I played both the original. I call it the original, the first
EA's.
EA Battlefront and the second one. Personally, I was more of a fan of the first one. The second one was cool. Like again, better graphics, right? You're playing it like I played it on the Xbox One.
Oh, but the second one you could pick exactly because the first one you had the 40v40 match. You
Yeah.
could select that, and you didn't know what you like. You had no say whether you're doing like a sabotage or
True.
an assault or death match.
Yeah.
But on the second one, you could choose deathmatch. You could choose which war,
Yeah.
Clone Wars,
Right.
droids, and it would go back and forth. And you could be playing one conquest or what was the main 40v40?
Yeah.
It was when
Like
you would
team
go to the ship.
deathmatch, basically.
You could be playing it for hours, one match, because you go to the ship,
Mhm.
and then let's say the droids and the Republic are duking it out. Republic wins in the ground. Go to the droid ship. Droid ship wins. Go back to the ground. Droids win. Go up to the Republic ship. Back to the ground. That was one match. So you had to win on the ground and
Okay.
win in the opposing member's ship
Yeah.
to win the game. So you could be doing that forever.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, that I think for the game, I was just so used to the other game. I think that it probably overwhelmed me a little bit. The gameplay did because it was
Yeah.
super it was touchy. Obviously, like of course you can change settings and all that stuff. I never got into all that. I never figured it out. It never made sense to me.
Mm.
But either way, like the Battlefront 2, there was heroes that were involved in that one too, right?
Mhm.
Like you could play. I remember always hating when Palpatine like was on the other team. Like when
Yeah.
I was the Rebels because he was a little OP.
He was
But
OP.
um,
Well, because I feel like they've made him kind of weak sauce in most other video
they
games.
did, but that Force Lightning was killer in
Yeah.
Battlefront or EA
The
Battlefront
EA
2.
Battlefront 2. They made him kind of weak sauce. Like the original OG Battlefront 2
Mm-hmm.
on PlayStation 2, they made him kind of weak sauce.
He was weak. Yeah, he couldn't move. That was his problem. Like,
Couldn't
he kinda
move, kind of
floated.
hobbled, floated around, and he barely used a lightsaber.
Yeah.
But it was cool because like the loadouts for the EA's Battlefronts were different between 1 and 2.
Mm-hmm.
For the first one, you can kind of create your loadout,
Yeah.
and for the second one, you choose a character,
Right. You were like a class more
Yes.
than like you were a marksman or you were a.
which was kind of closer to the original.
Yeah. It was. It was. I liked. I mean, it was a good game for sure.
So Lego Star Wars original trilogy,
Right.
EA Battlefront 2. I say EA Battlefront 2. Not gonna lie.
The original trilogy. I mean, yeah, because it was just the last 3 games or the last 3 movies, I guess. Yeah, I'll go with that. That sounds good to me.
Cool.
That's fair.
Because it's interesting. Because moving on.
Yeah,
To
we gotta
the
keep
next,
it. We gotta keep it.
we gotta keep
moving.
going. All right. So we'll just stay in the same bracket.
Yeah.
Moving down. OG Battlefront 2 versus Episode 1 Pod Racer. I think this is.
I think the Battlefront 2 got a
Yeah.
buy for a reason.
We will probably go more in depth into why as the later rounds, because that'll probably be a top finalist.
It's going to be very far in the bracket either
Yeah.
way.
All right, moving down. OG Battlefront versus Force Unleashed 2. Did you play Force Unleashed 2?
I haven't played the second one. I played the first one. So I really don't know what the story is. Because how can you add on to the story?
It's
after that.
crazy, dude. So the storyline basically is that Darth Vader had cloned the apprentice Starkiller,
Oh, okay.
but so you in the beginning you kind of wake up as Starkiller,
Right.
and so throughout the whole game he's trying to figure out if he's a clone or if he's not.
Okay.
He doesn't know. He
Like foggy, kind
like
of like
he doesn't
memories
know
and
what
stuff.
happened because Starkiller dies at the end of that first game.
Right.
So he's like, he kind of figures this out, and he's like, am I a clone? I think he ends up being a clone.
Okay.
The gameplay is very similar, but the levels are just obviously different.
Sure.
And kind of the whole verse Vader thing, like the first Force Unleashed, you're fighting for Vader, and then you kind of switch on him. No, you're kind of doing your own thing the whole time.
Yeah.
You fight Rancors. The maps are really cool. I thought it was
For
fun.
sure. I mean, the things that I loved about the first one were probably the same, like with the force abilities that you're able to control, and either like playing it on the Wii or the Switch. And I think Nintendo was a way to go with those games, just because you kind of felt like you were Starkiller
Yeah.
a little bit, or Darth
'Cause you could
Vader
just-
on the other ones.
You
Right.
know, for those of you who are listening, you could just motion the remote, and
Right.
it would create like a force
Right.
push in
And
that
that's what
direction.
sets those games apart from the other ones, because they're just all controller based.
So interactive.
hmm
But then again, the OG Battlefront was
It was like
mind blowing.
I feel like that was the first Star Wars game that we played that was like sealed the deal of like,
Yes.
Okay, Star Wars games, they're the best. They're the ones that we like the most.
Right.
I really like the original Battlefront 2 as well, I guess, right? Because of the sniping on that game. I feel like you could really do some damage as a sniper in the first one.
And those good sniping maps.
Mm-hmm.
I remember when we were kids, we got brought into Best Buy by our grandparents, and
Yep.
they had the PlayStation 2 hooked up to like a sample TV with Battlefront 2 going, and we
Those
were
were
just
the
in
days.
awe.
Those were the days. You could go into Best Buy and play a
And
video
play
game.
a game to test it out.
Just to try it, give it a test drive.
And it was the full game too.
It
It wasn't
was.
like the demo. It
Right.
was like the full game bloated up, and you could just hop on,
Yep.
and other people would come by, pass out the controller. But
Yeah,
I remember just watching it like, what?
right.
And the people underestimate the AI, or not the AI, but we called it the computer.
Right. Yeah.
You know,
It wasn't. It was AI before it existed. Yeah. You played against the game. You played against the computer.
it's funny because we were playing with I was playing with Brady. That's our younger brother,
Mm-hmm.
and he was like getting mad because he was getting some like you're gonna get killed.
You
Like
got pwned a little bit.
you got yeah.
You did.
They're good.
You can come around the corner and you'd be playing against like an engineer, and he'd have a shotgun ready, and you just
Dome you.
gone, one shot.
Nothing you could do about it.
No, nothing.
So I don't know. OG Battlefront versus Force Unleashed 2. I'm going to say OG Battlefront.
I would
just
say
'cause it
that-
was so revolutionary.
I would say that too. Like I said, first game, didn't play the other one, so I'm partial.
Moving down the bracket, Lego Star Wars 3: The Clone Wars versus EA Battlefront 2. So Lego Star Wars 3: The Clone Wars is one that I had on Wii,
Mm-hmm.
and it was when you flew from ship to ship, and you could do those mini games where you could capture like the little territories and build 3 buildings, whether it be a cannon or
Okay.
troop deployment or
Yeah.
something vehicle.
Those were cool. That was a really cool element that they added into
It
those. Yeah, because it was like another puzzle kind of thing. Again, those are kind of puzzle based, kind of based on what you're saying. But yeah, the ability to add in, and you had to like save up for them, and then you could buy them and use them. They were helpful.
This is also the first Lego Star Wars game
Mhm.
where you could leave the screen from, like, if you were split screen,
Oh,
you could leave, because in the originals
forgot about that.
you
too.
were tethered to the
Yes.
same screen
And so you could pull somebody off of the
as a
map
second player. Exactly.
consistently. Yeah.
You couldn't separate because it couldn't figure out a way to split screen.
Mm-hmm.
But it was kind of weird because it would tilt. It wasn't like
It wasn't like
half
one
the
half.
screen.
And, yeah, exactly. It would be diagonal at times, and then it was still a little screwy. But at the same time,
it was just cool.
we wouldn't tick each other off by pulling each other off
I
the
think
map.
Lego Indiana Jones was the first one to do that.
I was gonna say it was either that one or Lego
But
Harry Potter.
Lego Star Wars 3 was the first Star Wars one to do that. I
right,
know for sure.
right. Yeah.
And then EA Battlefront 2, that was fun.
Mhm. It was. I mean, yeah. Again, we talked about that one, already with just the various
Yeah.
things with it. But
I'm gonna have to say Lego Star Wars 3 just because I played it so much more.
I was gonna say I didn't play that one a whole lot. I remember watching you
I
play
played
it.
Battlefront 2 EA a lot too. That was. I think today, as
If you were to play
sitting
one right now,
here
which
at
one
23
would
years
you
old,
play?
I'm playing Battlefront 2.
I would agree. Yeah. Because again, repeats with the Clone Wars. Sure, new functions, new
Right.
parts, but it's a kind of a
the true
repeat.
Jedi and stuff, running levels, kind of like,
Yeah,
eh.
been there, done that.
Whereas, playing 40v40 online, thermal detonators being thrown about the whole map,
Yeah, there's a certain
explosions,
feeling.
orbital, it's just madness.
Yeah.
Awesome. Moving down, Lego Force Awakens versus Fallen Order.
You're gonna have to speak to Fallen Order.
Lego Force Awakens, I think we can just cross it out. It was terrible.
Yeah.
It was so bad. It was a
Yeah.
Lego game specifically for Episode 7, which in itself is terrible.
Oh heck no, no thanks. I'm out.
I was so bad. I may have played 1 or 2 levels and I gave the game away.
You gave it away.
I gave it away.
Oh man.
I knew I was never going to play it again.
Yeah. Once you hit that level, I think we can, call the other one in.
Fallen Order was cool. We'll talk about that more.
Now to the other side.
All right, other side of the bracket. Force Unleashed versus Bounty Hunter.
I still think Force Unleashed.
I do too.
It got a buy again for a reason. Such a good game.
Well, you know what's cool about Force Unleashed is I'm waiting for everyone. All the Star Wars fans are waiting for Jon Favreau or Dave Filoni to make him canon, man.
You make that a TV show, that's gonna pop off.
They could even like make him like a cameo in some type of thing, and then run a spinoff on him.
Right. Well, you got to introduce him, make sure people like it, and then it's kind of like what they did with Boba Fett, Mando.
Mm-hmm.
Keep the interest alive in the other shows.
Exactly.
Yeah,
But his character, I think, is just so tough.
it is the whole concept.
Boba Fett and Bounty Hunter is cool too, but Force Unleashed is just a little bit newer, runs smoother.
Mm-hmm.
All right, moving on. Lego Star Wars OG or Star Wars Episode 3 Revenge of the Sith?
So the Star Wars Episode 3 Revenge of the Sith we had on PlayStation 2.
Yes.
Basically, you're just playing the movie out. Like, it's
With
interactive.
extra stuff.
Yeah, this is a little extra here and there. Better battle droids and cooler things from that perspective. Initially, one of those that you could use the Force again, and like you could select specific items to Force and kind of interactive environment. Like
Right.
that was a cool part.
That
of
was
it.
cool.
But overall, I think when you're in again Dexter's Diner, you're bouncing around, getting a little Lego studs.
Right. Lego Star Wars the OG was the first Lego game ever. It was so
Mhm.
fun. We played
Mhm.
it all the time. Plus, Revenge of the Sith is kind of you're limited as far as you can only play 2 or 3 characters in the
Mhm.
storyline.
Mhm. Mhm.
They had a cool dual mode
We played a
to
lot of
where
that one.
in 2 players could play the same character and they would change a little bit.
Yeah, right. It's like a little Mortal Kombat kind of feel to it.
Exactly. The dueling was at least, but
Right.
the campaign was it was difficult
It
though.
was challenging.
So I think we can say Lego Star Wars the OG
I would agree.
for that one. All right. Knights of the Old Republic versus Lego Star Wars the Complete Saga.
Yeah. So Knights of the Old Republic, again, I liked it just because it was almost like gosh, I never know the names of the games right, but like a Skyrim type of game where
Yes.
you could collect different items and you could get different weapons and you could equip
Level
different,
up.
right, level up. And again, you can kind of follow, right, the dark side versus the light side. And then you could go through, play it again, right? You could say, okay, I'm going to save myself real quick, test out what the dark side track was going to be, and then
Yeah.
go back and repeat it.
And you could build your character how you wanted it. That was so cool.
Right. And then, like, that game was really cool too because there were multiple endings.
Right.
You could choose, right, at the very end of the game,
Same with Force Unleashed.
right? Do you want to be light side or do you want to be dark side?
It is awesome. Another thing that I love about Knights of the Old Republic is it's set in a time that's so far
Right.
before all the movie settings, so they could pretty much do whatever they want.
Yeah, for sure.
There's no limits.
But there's still plenty of Jedi around. The Sith obviously existed.
The Sith Empire,
Right.
tons of Jedi.
Right.
They could do whatever they wanted, and it would be fun. It'd be great. It's like I wish that they would have done a movie series about the Old Republic during Knights of the Old Republic time instead of episode 7, 8, 9.
Okay.
Because I feel like, you know what I mean? Like after episode 6, the story's pretty much over.
Yeah. At least it could be.
It
right?
could be.
Like it was the
I
whole
mean, there's a
redemption
whole-
story.
yeah.
Yeah. But bringing back a Palpatine, that whole thing, that's another.
That's a whole nother episode, but it's just
Yeah.
not a fan of episode 7, 8, 9.
No.
Anyway,
Yeah.
I think Knights of the Old Republic takes that one.
I would agree with that one.
Knights of the Old Republic over Complete Saga.
Over the Complete Saga. Yeah. Because again, same reasons. Washed.
All right, Republic Commando versus EA Battlefront.
Yeah, I mean, personally, I would choose EA Battlefront, just because, again, I thought it was cool because we'd played Battlefront so much growing up, and then they kind of sent it out, like, redesigned it a little bit, but it was still, right, like, online gameplay too at that point with the Battlefront perspective. Couple of maps I really liked on that one. I can't remember what it was. The Tatooine map.
Yeah,
there was kind of the
Sarlacc
ship
pit.
Yeah, the Sarlacc pit was there, and then there was another one where like the ship was kind of just in the middle of the map, and you kind of had to go from one side or the
Right.
other.
There was some kind of funky maps though,
There were.
because they hadn't really figured out what good size and layout of a map is. It was like the first really shooter map.
For sure.
So like when you'd be on Naboo and you'd be wandering in the corner and you'd see no one.
Yeah,
Because you're
you
not
could
going to
get lost very easily.
You could get lost, and there was some maps where it was constantly, people shooting, action, but there was some maps where you'd be in the middle of nowhere. The original Battlefront, it had the maps where there was shooting, action, all kinds of craziness, but then there would be maps where you'd be in the middle of nowhere and you can't find anyone.
Yeah, that's true.
Commando was very much walk them through. You're not going to get lost. Shoot them up. But honestly, dude, it was so fun, though.
Yeah, again, that's another one I hadn't played too much.
Because there's 4 of them, and they have different abilities, and one of them, Scorch, actually has been brought into the Bad Batch as an enforcer for the new Empire or whatever.
Sure.
I think Republic Commando, you say Battlefront. How should we settle this?
I mean, there's other Battlefront games to consider, so I say let's take Commando in.
Yep.
Again, just a variety's sake.
And Commando is not one of those games where there's like tons of different options. It's very much like a campaign. It's like but it's almost, it reminds me of Call of Duty World at War campaign.
I remember that game too. Yeah, follows the storyline.
Awesome to play through, and then after you play the campaign, it's pretty much done.
That was it. That was the game.
Yep.
I got you.
All right, so we are now down to 8 games.
Yeah, Elite 8.
8 Star Wars games.
This is where it starts to get really crazy.
Original Battlefront 2 versus the original Battlefront.
Man, that's like a chicken or the egg, you know? Which one do you want more? Which one came first? I mean, obviously the original Battlefront came first, but
The original Battlefront was so revolutionary. I mean, there was nothing like it. 007, maybe.
maybe, yeah. I mean, there's Rainbow Six probably. I know that was a game that was kind of
SOCOM.
yeah. SOCOM was a good one too. I think the original Battlefront 2, for a couple of reasons. The Galactic Conquest
Yep.
and the ability to
Space Battle.
you can build a new starship, and then again you had to recruit
True.
and you had to invest money to unlock
You
the
had to
different character
strategize.
classes, right? And then like the ability to again play as a hero. That was kind
That
of
was
that
cool.
was the first. You couldn't do that in the original
No.
Battlefront.
The original Battlefront's heroes would come in, but it would just
Yes.
say Lord Vader has entered the battle.
Exactly, and you had to play against them or play with them.
Yeah.
But you couldn't.
And if
be
you
the
saw
person.
them, you were like, "Oh crap!"
I'm out of here.
You run away.
Right.
But that was it.
Yeah. And then the Battlefront 2 as well, like the playing the hunts was always a lot of fun.
There's a lot more to do. The campaign for Battlefront 2 is so fun too.
Yeah.
You play as the
501st.
501st.
Mhm.
Yep.
That-
Go through Order 66.
Yeah.
It's class. It's gotta go.
Battlefront 2.
2.
Yeah, it has to. Yeah, sometimes sequels, again, like we've talked about with the Lego games, kind of
perfected.
fall short, but the Battlefront 2, it took all the
Perfected.
best parts and brought it in.
All right, so that brings EA's Battlefront 2
Mm-hmm.
versus Fallen Order.
Go ahead. What do you think?
I think EA Battlefront 2 takes this one
Mhm.
because Fallen Order, it's like I said, it's like Red Dead Redemption 2.
Right.
There's so much to do that it made me lose interest.
Mm-hmm.
There's so many side quests, so
Right.
many maps, so many different tunnels, so many different artifacts you can grab. I was like overwhelmed.
Yeah, I feel like Fallen Order is the perfect. You're 16, you're home in the summer, and you got nothing to do, so I'm gonna go on all the side
Well,
quests.
it was a pandemic game.
Oh yeah, for
for
sure.
sure.
That's another good example. Yeah, good point. Pandemic. As far as though, like, if you're gonna bring somebody over, you're playing games with your guys online or something. Battlefront 2, I think would take it for me.
I think EA Battlefront 2 takes this one. I think
Mhm.
Fallen Order was a good game. I think Cal Kestis is the Jedi on that game.
Okay.
I think he's a good character.
Yeah,
I would like to see him brought into more Star Wars stuff.
Sure.
But I think EA Battlefront 2 takes that.
I would agree.
So that brings it on the left bracket. That's two left.
Yeah.
OG Battlefront 2 and EA Battlefront 2.
Man, and we didn't talk through like how these games would kind of face off against each other either, but so far
It's going good, I think, but it's just so crazy because like all these games are played on different platforms, different game systems,
right.
and the gameplay obviously per system is so different.
It
but
really is. It really is. Let's
moving
see.
on, right side of the bracket, Force Unleashed versus Lego Star Wars OG.
This is tough. This is like the real first tough decision, because you don't want to like get it's like
Both are good.
it's like you got two puppies in the store, right, and they're brothers, and you got to choose like which brother do you want to take home, and then the other one
Exactly.
leaves in the pound. But oh man, Lego Star Wars OG for me would be the choice because again, the way that it set up all the rest of the Lego games, right? I know it's supposed to be just about like
Yeah.
the games against the games, but again, like I said, we played Lego Indiana Jones, we played Lego
Yeah.
Harry Potter, we played all the various Lego games.
Do you think that the Lego games would have still happened if Lego Star Wars didn't come out?
I mean, probably. Like we've seen the Lego movies, and we've seen Legos doing a lot of other kind of like entertainment stuff.
But Legos now are so expensive too. Do you think that kind of kickstarted the Lego?
The craze.
Yeah.
I think what they know is that people our age, like, I mean, obviously Legos have been around for a long time, but we have jobs and stuff now, so we're not like
Yeah.
afraid to pay a little extra,
Yeah.
right? Because we're not a little kid like at the store. Again, right? Legos have been around forever, but I know just in my experience, I spend way too much money on Legos as it is.
They're fun.
They're fun. It's like a puzzle. It's better than a
It's
puzzle.
Yeah, it is because there's an end product.
It's a 3D
It's-
puzzle. right.
exactly. With the puzzle, like after you finish, it's just
it back in the
now I have
box.
to use this table, so I need to clear it off.
Exactly.
Whereas like a Lego, you can move and not be damaged.
Right.
But Force Unleashed, there was nothing like it
No.
because you have different costumes, different lightsabers.
and you're the character.
And you're a
You kinda
great,
make
it's a
them your
great
own. You make them your
character,
own. You
great
really do.
story.
It's
You know the
so
guy
good.
who voices Darth Maul in the
Mhm.
Clone Wars is they modeled Starkiller after him.
Really?
Sam Witwer.
Oh, I didn't know
Mhm.
that.
Yep. So you say Lego Star Wars, huh?
I don't know. That's tough. I mean, I've played them both. I played just so much more Lego Star Wars, but
Yes.
Force Unleashed though, again,
Well, the
just
first mission of Force Unleashed when you're Darth Vader and you're
that's
wrecking Kashyyyk.
insane. Like when you first play it and you're like, okay, yeah, this is a cool game, whatever. And then you're like, oh my gosh.
It's almost humbling.
Right. But you can choose like yourself too. Like obviously Darth Vader's super powerful, but you're like, do I want to play this level like more
Do I
force
want to
based?
pummel everything in my path?
Right. Or do I want to like just, break out the lightsaber and, slice some Wookiees real quick? Like,
Right. It's totally. I feel like you have more. It's closest you can get to the realistic abilities of Darth Vader in a video game.
Right.
You don't have to use your lightsaber at all if you don't want
No, no, you don't. No, you don't have to use it once. That's insane. And that's what he would do.
to. Yeah.
Just like man.
But then whenever he wanted to use it, you can.
Right.
Same with Starkiller. I mean, with Starkiller, the main character, you kind of have to use you kind of have to use all your abilities.
For sure.
But it's built like that.
That's the whole point. Like he's growing up into it.
But what's so cool about Force Unleashed is you can get better at certain abilities. Like you can be good. You can have a greater skill with lightsaber.
Yeah.
And not just as a character, but as the actual person with the controls.
Right. Yeah, you kind of set yourself up as, again, like what kind of class are you? What's your perspective?
But Lego Star Wars 3, the OG Lego Star Wars, the OG, so many characters.
Yeah, they did. And then you could go into the cantina and be like, oh, do I have enough money to unlock Jar Jar Binks or like whoever it is?
I'll go for Lego Star Wars in this one because Lego Star Wars was like one of the original games.
Yeah, I think I'd have to still choose. I mean, I don't think it was fair for them to get matched up.
Even though
like
it was
that.
only the first two or the first three movies
Right.
worth of levels,
Still, though.
but they released Lego Star Wars before Episode 3 was released.
Yeah, they
So
did.
you could play the levels before the movie even came out.
I forgot about that. That's true.
But I don't think that but you couldn't play it until you beat 1 and 2.
Yes, that's true. Right,
So
you had to play through all the
I
other
don't think that
levels.
we were able to beat 1 and 2 and get to 3 before the
Before
movie
the
came
movie
out. They
came
timed
out.
it perfect.
They did.
Because pretty much as soon as we beat levels or
Maybe
episodes
that's
1
why,
and 2,
maybe that's another reason why it worked so well.
it has
Just
to be
the timing.
the dynamic.
I like it.
Solid choice. Okay. Last until the final four.
Mm-hmm.
Knights of the Old Republic or Republic Commando.
We've talked about them both. What's your choice? What's your gut feeling?
KOTOR.
Yeah,
Knights of the Old Republic.
I would agree.
Republic Commando is just too singular.
Yep.
It's too linear.
Mm-hmm.
There's one story. Knights of the Old Republic, you can do more.
Yep, I would agree. Our final four.
All right,
Oh,
final
geez.
four. So the original Battlefront 2 on PlayStation 2,
Yeah.
EA's Battlefront 2, Lego Star Wars, the original, or Knights of the Old Republic for final four.
Dang, this isn't fair to any of these games.
It's not.
Which one do we want to start with?
All right. Lego Star Wars, Knights of the Old Republic. I think we should start here. Since we were already talking about them.
Yep, I'm with it. Again, I played Knights of the Old Republic on the PC. So that gave me a little bit of a different experience because I normally hadn't played any of these other games on the PC, right? Again, I like the idea that I know I talked about it's fun to add on to the story of, Jango Fett or some of these other characters we've been talking about.
Right.
But with Knights of the Old Republic, choosing your own kind of identity,
You create it
right,
however you want.
within the Force, like what is
In the
if
Star Wars
I were
universe.
a Jedi or a Sith?
This is what I would do. If
yeah.
I had force ability,
Right,
I
exactly.
would either use the dark side or use. Didn't it have a system where you could build like points or some type of reputation? It would sway. Like
Mhm.
if you committed a crime, you would like
Yeah.
the meter would go more towards the dark.
Exactly. So within the levels you could choose, again, do I want to execute this person or do
Spare
I
their
want to
life.
spare their life?
It would pit you in situations.
Right. Like, do I want to help this person who's getting robbed or do I want to kill the person who's robbing them and take all the money for myself?
Right.
Right. And so, yeah, you could, there was like obviously a heavy blue, like I think it was like a sliding bar, like that went up and down, and like a
Mm.
heavy blue side, and then like a heavy red side, but then there was the middle ground too.
Yeah, and it was hard
It was
because once
hard.
you start going in one direction, well, it's kind of
It-
there's a hidden message, I think, because it's difficult to walk the light way.
It is right, and it gives you an idea for the Jedi, and like obviously we're not doing the whole like you know philosophical side of it or like the
Right.
meditation like the Jedi would. We're just playing the missions, but
Right. Because if you think about it, I mean, it's kind of it's really cool how it's set up. Like, because you have to get resources to unlock things, to buy things,
Mhm.
and if you help someone out, you're not going to get that many. But if you just steal it all,
Right.
you're going to get way more resources.
So like from a video game perspective, again,
You think Knights of the Old Republic?
I think so. Lego Star Wars, of course, is cool. It's fun. Again, minifigures, right? True Jedi. You're playing the game, and like it's funny. Like the people fall apart. Like when Qui-Gon Jinn, dies, it like his little pieces fall apart. Like it's cool. It's fun. Um,
It was also before they had voice actors for any type of Lego game. So they just
yes.
like grunt.
Yeah.
I don't know. I see. This is the first time we really disagree because I think Lego Star Wars beats Knights of the Old Republic only because it's just there's not one only reason. It's just very difficult, but I think it was more classic for me. I may be biased because I didn't play Knights of the Old Republic too much.
No, there's no doubt that it's a classic. I guess what I'm doing is I'm looking at the other side of the bracket, and I have a particular one that I want to win.
Yeah.
Like
Well, this is making me rethink too, like, because now I'm looking back and it's like, I mean, you can't go back. It's too late.
it's too
but
late now.
Force Unleashed, Lego Star Wars. Oh, I don't know, but
Right.
here we are, Lego Star Wars and Knights of the Old Republic. I think Lego Star Wars. You say Knights of the Old Republic.
I don't even know that was my decision, but like from like overall, looking at it now, older, I think I would, if I were to go back and play another one and like replay through the game, I think I'd play through Knights of the Old Republic.
That
just
makes sense.
for the reason of like
Going through the story
know
again.
more about the story. I know more again about Star Wars in general. Probably would be a little bit better at least hopefully speaking. But
I don't even think it's very easy to find anymore.
yeah, I mean, I've still got
You
like
probably get it on Steam.
I've got it on my Steam account, but again, that's only PC. Either way, based on the hours played, though, Lego Star Wars would take the cake.
I think so.
It's
You
again,
remember the first episode or the first level in episode 3 of Lego Star Wars when you're in the ships and you fly through.
Yeah,
and you fly through and there's all the mini kits and you're
the
shooting
space
the
level
whole time.
Oh yeah, and you gotta blow up the little hearts for
Yep.
the shields and
Yep.
things, and then you face off against Count Dooku.
Like, that was just so fun.
It was fun.
That's one of those games where it's just so fun. Like Knights of the Old Republic, games like that get frustrating.
That's true.
They get, to a
Yeah,
point where you get stuck.
You can get lost for sure. in
Lego Star
those.
Wars, it's just fun the whole time.
All right, you've convinced me. Lego Star Wars.
I persuaded you, Lego
You
Star Wars.
persuaded me.
All right. Now the hefty ones.
Yeah. So
Other side, final 2.
original Battlefront 2 that we played on the PlayStation 2, or EA's Battlefront 2, which is more modern consoles.
So let's go over some differences.
Yeah.
Command posts, major difference.
Huge difference.
There's no command posts in EA's version.
That was
Well,
a huge-
there are? There are.
feel again though, there's like so many different game modes.
Yeah.
That's the thing. It's hard to keep track of like, I mean, I guess there was capture the flag and stuff in the original game, but
Yes. I will say original Battlefront 2, it was made for local play. It was made for split screen and
Right.
playing at home
Right.
and
right,
it was before the internet, before online gaming.
right,
Whereas EA Battlefront 2 is built to play online.
right.
There's a split screen, but you can't play online split screen. You can only do like the Spec Ops stuff. Split screen.
Right. I mean, I'm still gonna say original Battlefront 2. Again, right. Gameplay was fun. The campaign though, I think takes it. Like playing as the 501st and going through their story, and then playing again on like what was it? Was it Mike Guido with
Yes. Kaida
Moody. And then you play a little
play
bit
on
after.
Mustafar.
Yeah, I think
Yeah,
it's got to be Battlefront 2.
The OG Battlefront 2.
Yeah.
Plus, I will say, we played this recently.
Mm-hmm.
The controls are jerky.
Oh, they are.
But for its time, it was pretty good. Polis Massa, the play on the asteroid, like there's not
No.
maps like that in the
No,
new
there's
one.
not. I forgot about that asteroid map, and you could take the tanks out into
Yep,
the
into space.
open
And
space.
if you were a droid, you could walk out in space and be fine. But
and
if you were a human, you walk out in space, you start dying.
you started dying slowly. Yeah. And there was a stamina bar too.
Yep,
Like they
stamina
introduced it
bar.
there, and
The double zoom.
Yep. Yep. I think OG Battlefront 2
OG
has
Battlefront
to take
2,
it.
yeah. Plus, I will say, for the EA's Battlefront 2, it got to the point where it was like every other online game.
Yep.
Where there's people who are so good where it's hard to have fun because and don't get me wrong, I'm not like a noob. Like I was decent, I think.
Let's see, I'm not very good at online games, so
But I would just get clapped.
yeah. I never really figured it out.
Well, it's one of those games where you have to keep up.
You have to
with.
run in the hours. You
Yeah.
just have to put in the time
and if you take a break, you're gonna come back and get clapped.
Right. Like if I had started playing that, like when we started playing OG Battlefront 2,
Yeah.
like that age.
Yeah, EA Battlefront 2, it's kind of just a hodgepodge of online players, and they just throw grenades and you get smoked, and it is fun, but there's not as many maps.
It's fun to play. I would rather play that than like Call of Duty. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like I would rather play Battlefront 2 than
Hands
whatever the
down.
Call of Duty game is. Like same kind of idea, same kind of game, but it's Star Wars based. So
yeah,
I would pick
you
that
can
one.
have more fun in EA's Battlefront than in Call of Duty, I think.
I agree. Yeah, obviously we're
You can't 360 no scope in Battlefront.
we're a good amount of time into this conversation about specifically Star Wars games, so
Yes.
clearly we have a preference.
Yes.
So
Battlefront 2, it is the
Yeah.
OG PlayStation 2,
Yep.
Xbox.
this
All right,
is
final
the tough
two.
one.
Final 2. This is the championship round. OG Battlefront 2 versus the original Lego Star Wars.
When we look at the qualities, I guess, of either one, like what are their strengths? What are the best parts of, if you had to choose three things, I guess, from Battlefront 2, the OG Battlefront 2, what would you say are your three favorite things?
The warfare aspect of it, how it's open warfare.
Mm-hmm.
My second favorite thing is how there's so many different game modes.
Yeah.
So you can switch off and on.
Mm-hmm.
Gosh, this is hard. I'm kind of just rattling the three things that come to my head first.
Yeah,
So I don't spend all day thinking about this.
for sure.
So the last thing I would say, it's either got to be the hero gameplay
Mm-hmm.
or just the maps. I mean, it was phenomenal.
There's too many good things to
Too
just
many good
limit it to
things.
three. But for me, if I had to choose, I would say the strategy aspect of playing a
Definitely.
galactic conquest against another person. Again, local play. So
Real
it's like you're
life.
playing a board game, but on the screen. And,
There's no difficulty level.
Right. It's like, what can you come up with? It's yourself. I like that aspect. You mentioned it already, the hero aspect. Again, just the jump in from the original Battlefront to. So, again, top three things, right? Galactic Conquest, being able to play the strategy,
Mm-hmm.
choosing your opponent. We talked about that already. Then I mentioned, right, playing as a hero, right?
Yep.
You're able to go from that way. The third thing that I think is the best about that game is probably, again, playing with the different classes, right? Like you can go to the command post, right? You can say, okay, I've been playing as, a standard trooper for a while. I want to switch it up and I want to be the engineer. Or, right, you get enough
Right.
kills, you get
But
enough.
you had to unlock them on Galactic Conquest.
Right, yeah. So Galactic Conquest, you have to build them out. You only get the standard trooper.
You get to choose which trooper you want to unlock first.
Right. But like when you're playing, I guess just, instant action or whatever it was called.
Right.
You could play as an engineer for a little bit and then you're like, okay, you know what? I'm going to play as a sniper now.
Yeah.
Or, the other ones that I remember is the jetpack trooper, right? Where the clones, like
Yes.
playing as that character, clone
Yeah.
commando.
The clone captain had that. It was the purple suit, and it was like the gun.
the like artillery
OP.
gun. Mm-hmm. Those are the cool things.
Lego
Now,
Star Wars.
Lego
cool
Star
thing.
Wars. What are the cool things?
The characters were awesome.
Yeah.
It was just fun.
Unlocking the characters was such a challenge.
The levels were goofy, fun. I don't know. The levels were never really my favorite part of the game, though. They were fun, but
The levels served the purpose of getting more money so that you could go back to Dexter's Diner and get new characters and mess around in the courtyard.
yes, that was definitely the highlight. Was
Right.
getting the new characters, and messing around with them.
Like, oh yes, I unlocked
General
disguise.
Grievous.
Now I can put a mustache and glasses on Mace Windu.
Yeah,
Like that was like it was fun. It was like again,
it's
how
just
can
goofy.
Yeah, it was good. That's true.
And it's like I
Goofy's a
said,
good way
like
to put
Lego
it.
Star Wars is one of those games where you have it's all about fun. There's not really a challenging element to it. It's just being creative and
Right.
running around and
Yeah, and like the idea that you had to again destroy everything to get as many coins as you possibly could, again, just so you could spend it back at Dexter's Diner.
right.
Ah, man,
It was fun. They both were great games.
they were.
All right, if I'm just
Definitely.
gonna take my shot here, I'm just gonna say it.
Yeah,
Original Battlefront 2.
yeah. What's your like line in the sand? Like the reason why? Like, okay, I'm choosing Battlefront 2.
Well, I had just had a brief thought about what you said earlier, to whereas if I was gonna pick one of these two games today to play,
to play right now.
it would be the Battlefront 2.
Yeah,
And they both were fun. But Lego Star Wars, I feel like it's kind of like Clone Commander on that aspect where you can kind of play yourself out of it.
mm-hmm.
Like you kind of get tired of it.
Mm-hmm.
There's levels. There's the greatest part about original Battlefront 2 is it's kind of like a board game in the sense that you can replay and it's never the same
It's
twice.
true, right? Again, you can go through different classes. You can go through different strategies on the various maps.
But there is a campaign too if you're into that.
There is a campaign.
And there's instant action, which is like just setting up a private match.
The variety. And again, I think we didn't really specify what this was too much, but the hunt levels where like you could play
Yes.
as an Ewok, or you could play as a Wampa,
Wampa.
or you could play as a Geonosian,
Yeah.
or
Gungan.
Gungan, right?
Jawas, Tusken Raiders.
Yeah, and like
Wookiees.
you can get the fusion cutter, and you can repair droids that'll give you more ammo.
But that took way too long.
It did take way too long. I did never really do it. Because again, most of the time you didn't run
Dire
out.
situations.
You were getting killed by the computer, and you didn't run out of ammo.
right. Or you picked it up
Yes, true. From
because they would just drop ammo packs or health
right,
packs.
yeah, I can't remember. Was it the clone engineer? I think it was engineer class.
They
Like,
could, but but if a player died, they would sometimes drop a
they
pack.
would drop it too. Yeah,
There's the ships element of it. You can, even though there wasn't like starships,
mm-hmm.
there was like little ships on the ground you could jump in.
yeah.
That was cool, and you could sabotage the garrison bonus.
Mm-hmm.
It's definitely way more to it.
And the hero class.
Yeah,
The hero
Yeah.
fighting. Yeah, I would agree.
Battlefront 2.
The OG Battlefront 2, I think, would be
the champion.
that's our champion. I don't think that there's a game. Of course, it didn't face every single game on here, but realistically, I don't think there's a game that it would lose to.
Right. I picked pretty much the Star Wars games that I know either one of us has played or
Right.
we've seen, popular ones. There's a ton of great Star Wars games out there, like Old Republic, Starfighter, Star Wars Starfighter.
Mhm.
That's like where you play. I played it before. It's not that fun, but
Well, that's the perfect thing about having this be your podcast.
I can talk
is
about whatever
you
I
can
want.
talk about whatever you want. And
know.
you can make and choose it.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I mean, I'd be interested to hear what other people think. Like, there's no doubt, like, people have played different Star Wars games, different opinions, right? Regardless
Yep.
of what they think.
I know there's got to be someone that's listening to this that's freaking out. No way! How could you throw a bounty hunter like that? dude?"
Yeah, exactly. I mean,
and I'm
hey,
sure they can make a killer argument.
yeah, no, there's no doubt. Overall, I think that this bracket is pretty accurate. Of course, you know, I'm half of the input here, but yeah, OG Battlefront 2.
The one that's still kind of turning my stomach is the Force Unleashed versus Lego Star Wars.
yeah, no, that wasn't an
That
easy
was
choice.
a hard one.
It's almost like it's an upset, you know.
But as much as it's like grinding me, it's like it's right. It's right. So I think that this is pretty much solid. Again, this has been an episode strictly on Star Wars video games comparison. This is probably the only dude that I could actually do this with who would not look at me like I'm crazy.
I was gonna say, there's, you know, you're gonna have your normal audience, but then you're gonna have about 10 people out there somewhere around the world,
We're on YouTube and just come across it.
and then they're gonna be so happy. So if you've stayed and listened to this entire podcast,
Kudos to you.
hey, you're in it just as much. All right.
You're on the same level as us. I'm sure there's some people that are listening to this, and because I normally my episodes aren't specific like this,
Right.
but there's probably some people who are listening to this who are maybe regular listeners who are like, I don't know what they're talking about. And that's okay.
That's
You
okay.
can click off this one, come back next week. But
Yeah.
this is something I've been wanting to do. I'm gonna try to get as much gameplay and clips and pictures on YouTube,
For
so
sure.
people can walk around. If you're listening online, if you think there's a game that piques your interest that we were talking about, Google it up later.
Yeah.
Comment.
If
We'll
you're a
get back
gamer,
to you.
yeah, I'd love to hear your opinion. Again, there's somebody out there who's got a very strong opinion about, for example, Clone Commando. So, love to hear
Clone
it.
Commander was fun. But yeah, this has been a fun episode. Taylor's probably going to come back on again at some point for a regular
Hey,
show.
I'm here for it whenever you want. Let's do it. It's been fun.
So yeah, thanks for listening in. Thanks for watching. Tune in next week or hopefully soon whenever I finish the next episode. And follow me on Instagram at Cough Drop Studios for updates about the podcast. Thanks for joining us, Taylor.
Yeah.
And have a good night.
We'll see you.